A very good evening to you all. You're watching NewsX. I'm Megha Sharma, and it's an important day. 2023-2024 budget has been announced by Nirmala Sitharaman earlier in the morning, and it is India 800, the blueprint for the road ahead up until India turns 100 years old, is going to be a landmark moment. And there is a momentum that has been pushed in that direction. Whether it is the MSME, whether it is youth, whether it is women, scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, the poor, the Aam Aadmi, the middle class, the tourism sector, the green energy sector, well, it is an all-encompassive, transformative, prudent budget as well. Is it populist? Is it reformative? Is it prudent? Is that going to encompass the problems that have been faced by the Aam Aadmi? Well, let's open up this discussion. Mr. Rahul Garg joins me on the telecast. He is the chairperson of the National Council of Direct Taxes, Assocham. Direct taxes, I think that was the single most important announcement that was made by the finance minister today when she brought the focus back on the middle class after 9 years of keeping them in ignorance and obliviousness, when she said that the tax slabs are going to be changed from 7 to 5 and tax exemption up until 3 lakh, where 3 lakh people who are earning 3 lakh and less are not going to be made to pay taxes. Has that brought about a cheer amongst the middle class? And then do we expect the same to be taking forth in 2023-2024 budget as well?
So it is very clear that the middle class was expecting a tax concession, and given the tax collection profile, the finance minister had some headway, and she has very well provided that tax concession, with now saying that up to 7 lakhs rupees per annum of the income, the person, if he opts for the new tax regime, would not have to pay any taxes. At the same time, she also took this opportunity to encourage the other people also to opt for the new tax regime by doing two things. One, recasting the slab rates, and second, reducing also the surcharge on the top income bracket. And therefore, to me, it appears that in this one go, we would give a significant push to adoption of the new tax regime, which will make the life easier for the taxpayers as well as for the tax administration.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Rahul, also the fact that this provides a chunk of the disposable income into the pockets of the middle class. This is aspirational India. This is also Government of India wanting this cash to be then cycled into the economy, allowing for further growth, allowing for then investment, allowing for tourism sector, MSME sector. They all are going to indirectly get impacted by this proposition, this change that has been brought in the tax slab, right?
You're absolutely right when you say that 37,000 crore odd is the tax foregone because of the direct tax proposals. All that tax foregone actually becomes the income in the hands, money in the hands of the people. And therefore, that much money is pumped virtually into the economy for creating demand in the sectors.
Okay, all right. The important takeaway that up until 9 years, the finance ministry kept itself away from bringing these concessions to the middle class. Can we call it a political game plan ahead of 2024 elections to bring about this dramatic revision of the tax slabs?
If you were asking this to me, I would say that this is something which is a result of a very peculiar situation that we are obtaining. You see the pandemic, you see the pre-pandemic, the tax collections and the rate of the tax collection. In how many years have we exceeded our collected taxes by budget? And all the things put together would tell you very clearly this was the opportune time, number one, in terms of the fiscal space being available because of the greater tax collection. And second, also it was opportune time because last year has seen a bit of harder inflation which has impacted the middle class most. And therefore, there was also a compelling reason to use some fiscal space to give concession in that area.
Okay, so you're saying it's got nothing to do with the elections, the general election that comes in 2024, but also important if government is losing a considerable amount of chunk by way of receipts because there are tax slabs that have been moved and exemption and concessions have been given to the taxpayers, and we now have an increased deficit, fiscal deficit of about 5.9% that the Government of India and the Finance Ministry aim to reduce by the next fiscal year, that is 2023-2024. How do we spend this massive chunk of capital expenditure of 45 lakh crore, and where all is this going to be transferred into? Is it going to be largely the MSME sector? Is it going to be the capital that needs to be pushed? Is it going to be then tourism, which all have been indicated by the Government of India, by the Finance Ministry as well? I posed this question to Darshan Hiranandani. He is the chairperson of the National Council of Hydrocarbon, Assocham. It's good to have you, Darshan. We were talking about the massive chunk of 45 lakh crore rupees, which is capital expenditure. Now, there has to be an impetus on infrastructure and investment, and that's where the larger chunk of this capital expenditure is going. What's the roadmap ahead?
Okay, I want to start off by saying, firstly, I'd give the budget a triple thumbs up.
Okay.
Primarily because she remained consistent, and we love that. Secondly, my wish is that we continue to doing big things 364 days a year, and my ideal budget would be where we only have a vote on account on budget day. Because the government this year came with some great big bang announcements, Indian semiconductor mission, PLI schemes. So much happened in, even for the hydrocarbon sector, so much happened with renewable ethanol that we are working on with the ethanol blending schemes, budgetary allocations to incentivize those. The third thing, and I'll talk about it in just a brief second. Third thing is this decision of changing to this new tax scheme. And I know people were upset with the insurance sector. Oh my God, this is going to hurt insurance companies. But I think the government woke up to one reality. We want to stop telling people what they should do with their money. You give up to 2,000 rupees for this, up to 5,000 rupees for that, up to 10,000. Here they've told people, listen, this is a higher slab, this is your money. How you decide to spend it is your call. What you want to spend it on is your call. And they've given them more freedom. So I think the new millennials, the new generation, the younger kids of the block will appreciate that. Okay. In terms of infrastructure, it was excellent because there's an outlay, at least from a hydrocarbon side, there's stuff for hydrogen. But the bigger thing is India's story this year was not about betting on one thing. We have not only bet on solar, we have not only bet on hydrogen. We have said, listen, we are going to make our diesel and petrol greener and more renewable. We're going to save our forex. So we have this big ethanol program. Then we are talking about waste to wealth. So we're talking about, listen, green or biogas, where CNG comes from biogas, it will not have GST anymore. So my guess is biogas as well as ethanol, which comes from waste in the next round of budget, we'd like to see that also get a new incentive and probably come out of a GST regime. So across the board, we saw some fantastic stuff. And what I like is the government carried through on what they promised. I also chair the Data Center Council, and she promised last year data centers would get infrastructure status. She did it. This year we had infrastructure status, and you've seen the data center boom continuing here. So I applaud the government that they've been following through on things and being consistent.
Yeah, when we talk about renewable energy, and there have been a lot of funds that have been allocated, particularly for farmers also, natural farming has been the go-ahead. And there are alternatives that have been created by the government. Green hydrogen, you've already spoken about. There's a significant amount of chunk that has been provided there as well. It's Prime Minister's PET program. How long do you see, Darshan, that we take forward? This is the gestation period. And by 2030, 2050 is what voluntarily we say that we are going to be a zero net carbon emission nation. Is that dream going to be achieved before 2030? The way the budget allocations are being done for renewable energy, alternative modes of energy, ethanol you mentioned about, we're talking about reduction for the fossil fuel, we're talking about, like I said, green hydrogen plants to be set up across the country.
So listen, India has made a commitment of 2070, and what we've done is we've not waited till the last decade to say now we're going to do something about it. The fantastic thing that the government has done has gotten its act together. And like I was saying earlier, we have not bet on one thing. See, Sri Lanka's biggest mistake it made, apart from many things, was they woke up one morning and said, all farming is organic farming, we are going to stop importing fertilizers. Not realizing that transition requires a huge number of phases, requires trial and error, requires experimenting. It needs to be economically viable, needs to be technically sensible. Everything needs to work. So the reality is what government has done is, hey, let's make solar happen. Let's make wind happen. Let's make pump storage hydro happen. Let's make ethanol happen, hydrogen happen, biogas happen. Let steel industry use it. We now have, under the new energy efficiency bill that came out this year, government has the power to mandate certain industries to who will be the most likely candidates and correct users of it to say start using a minimum threshold. So for example, they can mandate refineries, they can mandate fertilizer plants to say 10% you will use green hydrogen because they are easy users of that. They can blend, GAIL has started blending in the gas pipeline in Indore, experimenting 5% hydrogen blending. There also they are using to do these experiments. So on every area, we will not have a world that is only hydrogen, only electric, only this. We will have a world that is an and. There will be hydrogen and electric and ethanol and this and that. It's not going to be a
so it's going to be an all-encompassive push towards renewable energy. Therefore, the achievement of the goal of 2030 or 2050 net carbon zero emission country, and that's the way to go about it. I'm also going to get V.R. Sharma. He's the co-chair, Mining, Iron and Steel Council of Assocham, and it's good to have you, sir. And particularly when it comes to key industries, the primary industries of our country, and there has been particularly, I'm going to speak about Skill India initiative. Now, whether it is about tourism, whether it is about MSMEs, whether it is about the key industries of our country, whether it is about renewable energy, AI, VR, and so on and so forth, youth power needs to be exploited in the right way to allow for the growth to take place in a massive staggered manner, because our population from the age group of 18 to 35 is the maximum and is going to stay like that for the next several years.
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, I would like to appreciate the way the budget has been formulated and presented by the Honorable Minister. It has a lot of hopes which are given to the people, looking to the current geopolitical situation and looking to the issues in Sri Lanka and also in Pakistan, and looking to the issues in Ukraine and also in other part of Europe. I think this budget gives a very positive sign that India can definitely be an emerging economy in times to come. Some people, they say that it is a neutral budget, and some people may say that it is a political budget. But I would say that this is the budget from here on. The industry, the government, they can look that this is the base, and from here we have to move up. This budget has given for the industry a couple of things, and especially for the steel and cement industry. The infrastructure growth has been maintained pretty high. And I will not repeat the numbers because numbers are already munched by everybody. The infra in terms of railway, that has been excellent. So that budget is good. Then Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, this is excellent for the steel industry and for the cement industry as well.
Right.
As a whole, the engineering industry is going to gain, and the employment generation will definitely increase. This is what I feel about this budget.
Okay, and talking about the ease of doing business, now whether it is going to be a single window IT system, whether it is about creating gift IFSCs, now whether it is about using a single digital platform to allow for all compliances to take place, that has been taken into account this year around as well. And this is only going to allow domestic players and international players to come together to allow for the growth that India is looking to reach the 5 trillion economy and so on and so forth in the coming years.
There is a point, Megha, here. One is single table or single window clearance, and other is the intentions. So I would say the intentions are very clear. Government is very supportive, and government wants to address the issues, whether it is single table, single window, or maybe in one meetings or two meetings. The issues related to the environment and issues related to forest, these issues are likely to be addressed further. But yes, of course, for MSMEs and for the micro industry, the budget has brought quite ease of doing business, I would say, because many of the laws which were impediment are removed by Government of India.
Yes.
I'm thanking them. And this is going to give, transition from HNI or professionals to entrepreneurs. And this is what we need, because each entrepreneur who is created today creates at least 10 to 15 jobs. And if we create about lack of entrepreneurs in the country, then crores of people will get the employment in the country. So this is a positive sign. Government is thinking towards that. Maybe the heavy industries, heavy engineering industries, they may not get that single window clearance benefit overnight, but this is a step towards that. So I appreciate Government of India.
Okay, and also taking a look at the digitization, taking a look at going the next level of artificial intelligence, robotics, drones. How does that get infused into all sectors and our everyday life, whether it is about steel, whether it is about the key industries, primary industries, whether it is about skill development, whether it is about tourism or MSMEs?
So I'll touch first the skill development. Look, the program launched by Government of India for the artisans, technicians, for Vishwakarma Samman program. This is something new. And the country is having a large population of OBCs, dual caste, dual tribes, artisans, technicians. I mean, whatever the religion they may belong to, whether it is Hindus or Muslims or any other religion. So that is a very large population, and government has tried to give them a relief in terms of extending micro loans and finally a collateral-free loan. This is one. The second is for MSMEs also. Now it is collateral-free loan, so more and more entrepreneurs will be in position to develop. The other area is digitalization. It's part of life now, Megha. So we are all working on digitalization, be it from the household industry to the automobiles and to the manufacturing industry. Everybody is working on AI and digitalization, and that's the part of life. So this is a constitution today, and we all have to develop, and we all will have to work on this.
And then obviously pushing towards the next step, which is AI, artificial intelligence, that's going to transform the way the world looks at India and the way we are working and operating from our homes and from our offices as well. Okay, I have with me Shri Anuj Mathur. He is the chairperson of the Assocham National Council for Insurance. He is the MD and CEO of Canara HSBC Life Insurance. Now, Anuj, what I would like to understand from you is the all-encompassive view, the amount, that's a large chunk of money, capital expenditure of about 450 lakh crore rupees, which has been allocated this year around to bring forth the transformations, changes in the varied sectors that the finance minister has spoken about. How do we divide this huge chunk of money, and how do we see the results? How do we see the returns, keeping in mind India is the largest economy, amongst the largest economies, it is faring the best, whether it is about our GDP growth rate, whether it is about our forex reserves, whether it is about the inflation which has been curtailed at 5.96%, whether it is about the growth rate that has been projected at 8.8%. So how are these variables going to help us gain the position of number 4 or number 3 in the global economy with the kind of capital expenditure that we have allocated this time around for the country's development?
Yeah. So first of all, I'd like to say that this is a very progressive budget. What government has done, what Honorable Finance Minister has announced today, I think we'll see huge traction coming in, and particularly on capital expenditure. I think there will be ripple effect of the kind of money which the government is going to spend. So this will result in additional creation of jobs. And if you see a budget, I think there's something for everyone. And if we talk about rural India, if we talk about infrastructure, I think the kind of spend which the government is going to kind of have in the next year, I think that will definitely accelerate the growth. So it's a growth-oriented budget. It's a progressive budget. And what I feel is that I think government has actually done their maths right. And if we see last couple of years, be it the GST collections, be it the fiscal deficit, I think all these parameters are looking positive. And Honorable Finance Minister also mentioned about how the country has moved from 10th largest economy to 5th largest in a couple of years. So I think it's quite evident that despite whatever is happening in the global arena, India is shining, India is doing well. And I think government has done a very good job in terms of controlling the fiscal deficit, because that's something very, very basic. And because I'm representing financial services here, I would like to mention that when the fiscal deficit gets controlled, it overall helps the financial services. It overall helps the government in kind of spending money where the need is. So I think overall, if I look at in terms of how the money is going to be spent and how the economy is going to get benefit, I clearly see a linkage. And I think it's a very thought through budget. While some sectors, particularly insurance, there may not be some immediate benefit, but I think overall, if I look at, let's say, salaried class, or maybe people who are in the middle class range, definitely there is good news for them. I think the new tax slabs are very welcome. After many years, we have seen this kind of relaxation, and I think the comfort comes from the government side that yes, fiscal deficit has gone down.
Yeah, okay. So an Aam Aadmi budget for the middle class as well, budget for the MSMEs, budget for the women, budget for youth, budget for scheduled castes, scheduled tribes. There will, like I said, an all-encompassing budget, a prudent budget to go about catering to every single sector, every single community, every single individual, if I may say so. And talking about digitization, you know, Aadhaar, CoWIN, UPI particularly, the finance minister mentioned that there has been spending, there has been, transactions worth 126 lakh crore rupees, which is 75% rise in the UPI transactions in the 2022 year alone, which is 90% rise in the transactions by value by UPI. Now, how do we take the next step from here?
Right. So I think these are the building blocks which were required for our economy to kind of work upon. And if I talk about insurance, the current insurance penetration is just about 3.6%, right? So there is ample scope, and some of these things which Honorable Finance Minister spoke about in terms of digitization, in terms of allowing new eKYC norms, I think is a very welcome move. Because if we want to cover this country of 1.4 billion population, 140 crore population, I think this was very much required.
Yeah.
So these things, I think some of these initiatives which the government has taken in the past, I think is giving us that confidence that we can ride on it. And while there was an announcement that in terms of traditional policy, the non-unit link policies, if the annual premium which the customer is paying is beyond 5 lakhs, the sum assured on maturity will be taxable. I think, yeah, it's a setback for the industry, but I'll again say that I think there's ample scope for the industry to grow. Similar change happened last year in respect of unit-linked policies, and we have seen unit-linked business also growing. So overall, insurance industry is doing pretty well, riding on some of these digitization initiatives, riding on the under-penetration which is there in the economy. So when I talk about various schemes which the government has launched, Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana or the Suraksha Yojana, I think the awareness which has got created over last 6 to 7 years is really wonderful. And I'm really pleased that industry is going to grow, irrespective of these small setbacks which will be there.
Okay, absolutely. Industry is growing. It's riding on the wave that India is flourishing on, being the 5th largest economy. Upasana Arora, co-chair, National Council on Healthcare, Assocham. I'm going to paint a picture for the world, for the people who are watching me right now, of how India fares at the global level. With our GDP of $3.4 trillion, our GDP growth has been estimated at 6 to 6.8%, ma'am. Our forex reserves at a comfortable $563 billion. Our fiscal deficit at 6.4 lakh crores, which is 5.9% of our GDP, and we are trying to curtail it to 4.5, 4.6 by the next fiscal year. The industry is growing at 4.1%, inflation at a regular 6.8%, and the service sector growth is at 9.1%. Now, amidst all the happy news that India hears, and while all the larger economies of the world faring poorly in comparison to India, whether it is China, whether it is United States of America, whether it is Australia, whether it is UK, Germany, Japan, how long does this tide last?
Thank you so much. Good evening. And I must say this budget, I really like this budget because, at least when they gave name of Saptarishi, we can say this is a budget of India. It is by the name of Saptarishi. And they have, our Honorable Finance Minister tried to cover all areas. And if I talk about healthcare, I am actually quite happy for increasing nursing colleges and medical colleges. At the time of COVID, everybody faced this challenge that if you are not well, you can't do anything. And hospitals cannot work without manpower. So whatever my co-panelists were talking about different industries and different kind of, different things, but how we can do if we are not well. So healthcare is actually very important aspect of this. And when we talk about artificial intelligence, so artificial intelligence is playing a major role in healthcare also.
Right.
You can see these days all the machineries which are coming to the our healthcare, they are built with the artificial intelligence. So this is actually reducing burden of doctors. So at least these machines can, give some relaxation to them. So artificial intelligence, because our government is focusing on that, so it is going to be very good. Same time, I would like to tell you that if we are focusing on our rural area, if you talk about our farmers who are using these digital apps and all, everything is going to help in all ways to even healthcare, because everything is interlinked.
Yeah. Everything is interlinked, and particularly, I'm going to speak up. Of course, there are a number of these medical centers, medical institutes, medical colleges that are again being opened by the government under the Ayush scheme that the government has launched. It's been several years now, and the people and the healthcare sector is reaping the results of it even now. And there has been allocation that has been provided for 2023-2024 as well. But one important aspect that was also mentioned in the Finance Ministry budget was about eradicating sickle cell anemia. Yes. Yeah. So and on top of, and that was the way we were fighting it out for polio, and it has taken us years and years. The project that has now been taken forth headstrong by the government is eradication of sickle cell anemia, and an action plan that has been built.
Actually, I would like to tell you that I am also part of this, because Folksy has taken this initiative few months back, and government has taken this very right step, because females who are suffering from anemia, they are the one who is going to birth to a new child in this society. So if there is no healthy society, how we can expect from the society that they will do well? So it is a very good initiative, as they have taken few months back, this eliminate TB also, TB Mukta Bharat.
Yes.
So you can see that our government is actually about healthcare, and they are trying to remove or eliminate all these diseases which are deep rooted in India. And because of that, there are many things, lots of death of at the time of delivery, females were suffering, and lots of things were happening. So this is a very good step, as well as you can see, if we are going to enhance the power of our CHC, PHC, then it is going to help our urban area if we will focus on rural, because then that patient load will not come to the this tertiary care and quaternary care, and they will be treated there.
Yeah.
So we can take
and reaching the last mile, it is not just by way of railways and roads and airways. It is talking about building from the district level, village level to block level as well. And therefore, an all-encompassive growth when it comes to healthcare sector is what the finance minister was wanting to say.
Yes. So that is why I am saying that this budget is actually made for the common man. This is very important, because all public was waiting for this. And if last mile you can reach there, this is the best thing can happen anywhere in the world. So I am really getting this budget.
A big thumbs up coming in from Upasana when it comes to the budget and healthcare particularly. All right. I have Rakesh Nangia, who is the co-chair, National Council on International Taxes, Assocham. Now, Rakesh, We've covered taxes, direct taxes, particularly indirect taxes. Also, there have been quite the changes that have been made. But I'm wanting to focus on all the schemes and yojanas that the Prime Minister and the Government of India under the NDA has launched and been able to further sustain them year on year with infusion of funds. And whether it is Jan Dhan, Ujjwala Yojana, Swachh Bharat Mission, the PM Suraksha Bima Yojana, PM Jeevan Jyoti Yojana, Deen Dayal Antodaya Yojana that has been launched. This is particularly for the economic empowerment of the women, and that's a huge thumbs up. And then PM Vikas Yojana, PM Awas Yojana. Now, the schemes after schemes, and it's not as if they have been done ad hoc. This has taken place in 2014, and it's been 9 years now, and then these schemes have been launched consecutively year after year, and then they have been given the financial impetus that is required, because these projects need to be carried on year after year. They cannot just be standing alone on their own for 1 year, and then funds dry up in the second year, or then funds are again infused at the third year. This is the balance that the government and the finance ministry has to take a look at, and it has done so. It has done so since 2014 up until 2023.
I tell you, this is one part. When the government announces a scheme, obviously the second most important thing comes whether the government has money for that. Generally, the government works like we work very closely with the government in a lot of projects, and I'm going to share some insight on it. Is when they allot any project or announce a project, they need to see and they see it whether the funds are there for that or not. And then when the funds are allocated, then they start working on the project. So this is one part is there. Very interesting, in one of the projects we were invited by the government, there's so many schemes have been announced, which you rightly mentioned. What has been the impact of those schemes on the public?
Right.
You announce a scheme, you don't allocate funds, or you don't deliver it well. So what is the impact of it? So we are going to do some impact analysis on few schemes of the government, which government has invited us, and to see that whether the scheme was announced, has it met the objective? Has the money came in? Has the money was rightly utilized? There was a deficiency or some roadblock in the whole implementation of the scheme is concerned. And if I can share you a very classical case. One of the most beautiful scheme announced was housing for all. And the government announced that 4 lakhs rupees will be given to a villager or to a person who doesn't have a house, and he has to complete the house stage-wise. And the government will release first installment of 50,000, then 1 lakh rupees.
Yes.
You'll be surprised. We were asked to see what happened to certain houses which were asked to the people spending money. When they got the first tranche of 50,000, they never utilized that money. So government was not able to give them a second installment because there was no end use of it. So here the government's actually, you will be surprised, a process was driven. Can we tag each house to the government dashboard to whether this money has been invested or not? And then going beyond, government today is concerned about it. First, there should be a utilization of money, because government has announced a scheme, they have already allocated the money. Obviously, as any right person, you want to end utilization of money to be done justice to that scheme. So here, you're right. When all these schemes are announced, the government is getting money, giving money. You collect money from borrowings, you collect money from savings, you collect money from receipts, you collect money from taxation, put the money on all these progressive schemes. So the money is there at times. Obviously, it can't be in all the schemes. I'm very honest about it. There are more schemes announced than allocation there. It gets deferred, it gets delayed. I think.
So, but how important does it become that to have the same government year after year and every 5 years to ensure that these schemes are not staggered? These schemes keep getting the funds and the flow of money keeps going, because if there is a break in that format, in the yojana, in this scheme, it will hamper the welfare and the development.
So honestly, I tell you, as per the law of the land, any scheme which is announced, the financial sanction takes place in advance. Then only they announce they will go for the scheme. They will never make a scheme allot a tender without a financial sanction. So financial sanction is always there. But the only point is this: when you have hundreds of schemes going on there, you're right, at times they are not initiated, at times they get delayed, at times there's a monitoring issue, at times there's a political issues. So there are issues. But I tell you one interesting thing. We went to one of the departments of the government. There are hundreds of schemes have been announced for women and child. In fact, you will be surprised that people don't know there are so many schemes. You can take advantage of it. So and technically you see there is not really dirt of money actually. is not being implemented rightly. That could be one of the reasons.
Okay.
Government has made provision for money. I can tell you that.
Okay, all right. I also have with me Vineet Agarwal. He's the co-chair, National Council on Direct Taxes, Assocham. We've spoken about taxes, direct taxes, earlier in the beginning of the program, but I'm going to get an encompassive view from you. Now, disposable income is what the government is aiming at to allow for the people to fight the inflation. How does this work? Because if you keep infusing more money, the inflation rises up. How is this contradiction going to be curbed by the government? The inflation standing at this point in time at 6.8%.
Yeah, thank you, Megha. Yeah, this as far as this budget is concerned, let's put it in two baskets. One is ease of doing business, and second one is putting money in the hands of common man. And as far as putting money in hands of common man is concerned, yes, there is a lot of talk that middle class has been addressed, the slabs have been changed. But let me give a different perspective. I mean, now the definition of middle class has also changed. I mean, of course, from Indian context, where we consider BPL up to 8 lakh rupees for our economic weaker section. So that's not exactly a middle class now. And middle class, the basket of middle class has to be increased up to, let's say, generally we say about 25 lakh to 30 lakhs. So, but a good start has happened that up to 7 lakhs, the money has been, I mean, there's no tax on the income, and that's why that much money, and the tax foregone, as the Honorable Finance Minister has told, is 38,000 crores. So that much money in economy, and every money spent again brings in a GST to the government. Okay, so it's a cycle. It's a cycle which gives a trickle down effect to the economy, impeaches. Of course, inflation cannot be brought down by reduction of taxes, especially direct taxes. Inflation it's by supply side. You know, there is a geopolitical issue. There's a war going on. There are fears of recession globally. Of course, we are a shining star in the overall geopolitical global scenario. But inflation will be controlled by controlling fiscal deficit. And fortunately, the government has put its money where it deserves. And it has not gone into larger CA. You told that it might be a political budget, but I'll say it's not a political budget. Had it been a political budget, the government would not have shown a fiscal prudence by restricting the tax cuts or the tax benefits to a very limited basket. Of course, it's a huge basket. If you see the taxpayers pyramid, the taxpayers up to 10 lakh rupees probably fall about 50 to 60%.
Right.
So they have addressed that chunk of taxpayers. And the other chunk of taxpayers is more than 5 crore rupees, which is hardly 0.1% or 0.2%. Of course, but their savings are huge. So government has been shoestring on all this. It's not a political budget.
Okay.
Of course, they have got money. I've come from, before coming to industry, I worked in the government. And I know not many years have happened when government exceeds its budget collection targets. And this year you have collected about 8 to 9% of above your last year's budget. That too in a scenario where there was hit from every side.
Okay.
Still you managed it. So basically it's a well-managed budget, well played, Honorable Finance Minister. And I will say, yes, you maintained the calm and composed, despite being a year in which would decide your political future in next year.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. And then Vineet, talking about Atmanirbharta, being self-reliant, whether it is defense, whether it is space, whether it is the steel industry, whether it is about food grains, there was a lot spoken about the year of the millet and how there needs to be more propagation for making India into a global hub. It already is the exporter and consumer of millet across the globe. The biggest importer, the biggest exporter and the biggest consumer. How should this trend carry on for the rest of the sectors? Steel particularly, it's the backbone of any economy. How can we supersede the export rates and prices of our contender, which is China?
Yeah, we have been. If you see, last decade, the local production of steel and the local capacities of steel in India, we have grown from 5th position to 2nd position. We have surpassed even Russia. Okay, of course, China is much ahead of us. But there is, and as far as the group from which I come, we actually see India as the point where the maximum production should happen. And in fact, our ask from the government has always been stop import, because we can produce our own. And unless we produce and consume our own, we can't be an export hub also.
Okay.
Whether it's and just mind it, Make in India cannot be in isolation. Make in India, you are importing raw material also. So unless you produce raw material in India, and steel is the raw material for your final product, steel is not the final product.
Exactly.
It is the raw material.
Exactly. So how does Ravia Sharma, you belong to the steel industry, you've devoted much of your career to the industry. And when we put in the maximum amount of funds to infrastructure and investment, does this allow for the steel industry to also indirectly benefit? How can the benefits be reaped?
Yes, it does very much. First of all, we are heading towards a 300 million ton steel manufacturing hub by 2030, and everything is set. Each and every industry is growing, and the growth is about 10 to 12% YOY basis. This is a phenomenal growth. We are now at a level of about 135 million ton this year, and next year we should be about 160 million ton. This is one. The second, we have all the minerals available in the country. All the ingredients required for the steel are available in the country. We have iron ore, we have coal, and now from coal, though of course we do not have the coking coal in that much of quantity, but we are now working very seriously with the government of India's support that Indian coal to be gasified, and then this gas is to be used as a reductant to produce DRI and then finally steel. So we are heading towards a very, very comfortable journey, and this will also reduce the overall CO2 footprint from a 2.6 ton of CO2 per ton of making steel to a level about 1.8 ton of CO2 per ton of making steel. So this is a great shift towards green business, and Indian steel industry is gaining substantially with the policies what Government of India has formulated. And time to time, they have supported the industry in a bigger way. Now, you must have seen yesterday, more than 80 coal blocks have come on the table. And these 80 blocks will be handed over finally to the private sector industry. And country is out of danger of getting blackout. This is a very, very encouraging step Government of India has taken. For the last 2 years, lucky we are that we have controlled our electricity generation cost, we have controlled electricity distribution cost, and we have fairly done very well to deliver or to provide electricity to each and every person in the country. And this is a phenomenal achievement. If you see in Europe, if you see in UK, the power tariff has gone as high as 100 rupees to 120 rupees per unit, whereas we could maintain maximum up to 15 rupees per unit. So this is I would say a great job done by Government of India, and I'm sure in times to come, the kind of minerals availability, kind of coal and iron ore availability, kind of the expansions we are undertaking, we will be the lowest cost producer in the steel, and we can support a good quantity. Good stuff.
Okay. Rahul Garg, I want to ask the question of reaching the $5 trillion economy position that's going to be perhaps done before 2030, by 25-26. There are certain estimates that are being created. But what is it that is going to drive our economy and the GDP to that level? It is an industry growth at 4.1% that currently needs to further be expanded to about 6% perhaps. And where does this fresh impetus, where is the chunk of funds that are going to come for the increase in the GDP to allow it for it to become 5 trillion and then supersede Japan?
So I think it is very clear that our GDP growth, as you see even this year, comes from both components. The agri, the manufacturing on one side, the services on the other side. And therefore, I think this profile of growth would continue even to achieve the 5 trillion, and both the services sector and non-services sector would continue to grow. Insofar as the investment is concerned, as you saw, that there was a buoyancy in the tax collection, and everything to grow would need money, as you rightly pointed out. To me, it appears that the tax to GDP ratio, despite the buoyancy today that India achieves, is not as much as a typical $5 trillion economy would achieve. Generally, you would find in most economies of that size, which are advanced economies, tax GDP ratio is close to 20%. We are still hanging around 11%. So I think the buoyancy that we saw in the tax was not only the result of actual better economic performance, it was partly also contributed to better compliance and voluntary compliance. To me, the digitization, the mechanisms of making the tax simpler, encouraging the behavior of voluntary compliance would help us inch forward in the tax GDP ratio. That would be one part of the kitty which would fund the growth in future.
Okay.
The other thing, as you know, is very clearly, if you have good finance, fiscal position, good governance understood in the international market, then funds is not a problem. There are trillions of dollars available across the world where people want to put in the money, where they see that this is safe, this is stable, this will grow. And I think we are providing all those enablers for capital to chase us rather than we wanting to chase capital.
You're absolutely right. Darshan Hiranandani, taking on to that point and adding a few more adages, particularly with the announcements that were made today. The gift cities, the gift IFSCs, the compliances, the number of rules and regulations and SOPs that at erstwhile had to be followed have been reduced. There is also a single system, single window system that has been put in place. Also digitization. When we talk about when we are talking about digilockers, when we are talking about UPI, these all infuse trust in international investors wanting to come to India, set up base, and then again an impetus gets created to reach the economy level that we are looking to reach at.
So let me put it a little differently. You see, the central government is doing its best, whether it's through Invest India, whether it's through ease of doing business policies. It's trying to create an oasis in Gift City. But the reality is that a big bulk of the ease of doing business for new capital investment has to come from the state governments, because ultimately they are the big placeholder for this, and you're finding huge differences in success that different state governments are seeing. So for example, Tamil Nadu, fantastic traction for industrial. Uttar Pradesh, fantastic traction for industrial. Odisha, very good traction for industrial. So what's happening is that where the state governments are proactive and working hard, the center is supporting projects everywhere, irrespective of the politics. So there's been no problem in states where people want to come and move forward. So I think center is doing its bit. Announcements have been right. But the next stage of getting new industrial investment, manufacturing investment, capex expansions, I think existing businesses will expand capex wherever they are, but getting new people. So I'll give you a simple example. We have a little park, industrial park, jointly with Blackstone in Chennai. In the last 2 years, the park is full with 5 wind manufacturers under the China Plus One program, practically, where they had to build a new plant outside China. And Tamil Nadu government, extremely supportive, we managed to build it very, very quickly.
Right.
And take it forward. So you've got 5 big manufacturers, 20 suppliers, all creating almost 10,000-15,000 jobs there, becoming an economic creator, creating export. But that was only possible because center had good policies, state was proactive, private sector came in, and it's, you know, when India has to market itself, everything has to work like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, well-oiled machine, and therefore the impetus. I just mentioned, these few points that the government mentioned, saying that, 50-year interest-free loans to the states for 1 more year that has been extended, 50-year interest-free loans to spur investment of 1.3 lakh crores. So this capital investment that is being infused by the center to the states is an ongoing process. This is not just a 1 year incentive and then let go of it. This is a continuous process. I'm going to have to come to Anup Mathur as well. So while we are boosting our industry growth, at the same time we need to bring the standard of living up as well across all strata of the economy, whether it is the poor, whether it is about the marginalized, whether middle class or the upper class. Therefore, the push when it comes to PM Awas Yojana, the Swachh Bharat Yojana, building of toilets, empowering economically the women of our country, particularly in the rural areas, to last mile connectivity and reach, it is all important.
Absolutely. In fact, I like to add that, see, if you look at India as a country, we are a consumption economy. We have so much of demand which is self-generated within the country that our dependence on other countries is very low. I think that's a very big positive. And as I mentioned in the beginning also, the capital investment which is happening, the capex, that's going to have a multiplier effect. But if you see in the last couple of years, the way the urbanization is happening, the way the disposable income of people, not just in metros or mini metros, but even if you look at smaller cities, I think there is big transformation which is happening right now. And I think that is also aided by the infrastructure investment which government is doing. Big time, you see industrial corridors. Once you are on the highway, you see a lot of development happening. So I think now the growth of this country is not just limited to few pockets. I think the growth is going to come from rural India. The growth is going to come from the urbanization which is happening. The growth is going to come from the digitization. Because now I think that face-to-face interaction always is not required. Once you have these digital assets, you can actually ride on it. And this is what the insurance industry is planning to do now, where we are going to increase the penetration. The message from the regulator, from the government is very clear that we have to cover the entire country. We have to kind of make sure that insurance reaches each and every person in the country. So I think overall, all these investments which have happened in the last 4 to 5 years, plus what the government is contemplating now, is going to take our economy to a very different level in next few years.
Absolutely. Upasana, I'm going to come to you. Again, taking the whole nation and citizens together. We cannot have one pocket which is doing extremely well, while the other it's ridden with health diseases, it's ridden with poverty. Women empowerment cannot be seen. So it's all coming together in one go. And on top of it, if you're building industry development, we'll need disposable income for people to spend on those industry goods. On the other hand, we'll require skilled labor. Therefore, education institutions that are being built, Eklavya institutions that are being built. Healthy nation is a wealthy nation. Is then going to allow for all these health insurances or creation of toilets. That is again going to be a futuristic way of bringing the quality of health, quality of life of people in our rural parts of the country and the urban parts of the country everywhere at a standardized level.
So, Megha, I would like to tell you, as I said before, like everything is interconnected. So, like government is promoting very much this tourism. So, when they will, promote tourism, medical tourism will promote automatically. Especially at the time of this G20, when we have got this opportunity that we are hosting this event in our country, it's a very good time to, showcase our beautiful India for tourism as well as for medical value travel. And this budget has shown that government is actually thinking about each and everybody, not only persons who are living in urban areas or who are having big businesses. They are thinking about everyone. So, when you are doing good in all manners, like all my dear panelists were talking about their respective fields, so I can say that when a country is growing, so India has proven in front of everyone that we are the one who are actually doing very well in economy also. As well as after COVID, we have, even at the time of COVID, we have done a very good job in healthcare. Like we were the only nation who has done this much of vaccination. We provide vaccination to other countries.
Right.
And many things,
Yeah, the UPI, the CoWIN, we've spoken so much about digitization that has allowed vaccination, of course. Yeah, these are important factors. This puts India on the global map and makes countries look up and take notice of what India is doing. So Rakesh Nangya, now making India a global hub for millets, making India a global hub for space tech, for steel manufacturing and then export, several of these factors, these need to be pushed forth. These need to be put forward. But how is that possible? Okay, in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, India at 100, we already at... So how is this all going to build to support the narrative of India at 100 during the Amrit Kal, as the Prime Minister says, and the government has been pushing for this dream?
I think a very interesting fact. There's a complete change in scenario of thinking of all the global, worldwide country-wise. They have started looking inwards now. Earlier, you were looking outwards. Now you're looking inwards, and every country in the world today talks about, like India talks about Make in India. This is happening everywhere in the world. And India is leading it in a very big way. So if you have to be a global superpower, if you have to be a country which will make a dent in the world economy, first of all, you need to look for your citizen, make your country stronger, and start the facilities, everything in India. And I give you an interesting case. Take the case of what happened lately to China. There's a complete, we're talking about building an alternative supply chain as robust as possible, and the entire thing has started. I'll give you facts and figures. Do we know that 65% of defense production is manufactured in India today under the Make in India program? Only 35% is imported, not missing. So there you see toys, China market have eroded. But it's a humongous task. If you see the size of it, it will go to take years, and this has to be relentless battle. This has to be ease of doing business, welcoming business, calling foreign companies to invest in India, build the infra, invest the pension funds, investment money in India. It should be a win-win situation for both sides of the picture. You come, make money, invest in India, and India gets the money. You build up infra, you build up capacity, you build up a supply chain. And even Prime Minister said it. A supply chain is one of the most expensive in the world today. And this can only happen when you have money coming in and you're investing in money and make India as a country, as a strong country. And this, I am telling you, if you see the facts and figures, we Indians never used to talk about trillions. Today, we are talking about trillions in every sector we are talking about today. Billions has become like a million today.
You're absolutely
so
right.
Size is becoming bigger.
Yeah.
You're talking Gati Shakti, so many lakh crore. You're talking about infra pipeline, 10 lakh crore. You're talking about logistic pipeline, 7 lakhs crore. It's a crazy figure you're talking about. Metros in so many cities, fast trains in so many cities, 2,40,000 crore rupees in the railways. Never seen this scenario earlier. The big ticket money is coming in.
Okay. So big ticket money is coming in. And Vineet, finally, before I wrap up this discussion, I'm saying we're riding the wave. It's only natural. We have the resources, we have the manpower. Like I said, 18 to 35 years age group is the population that has to be skilled. Some of it already skilled, certain percentage the government is putting the impetus. We need to have skilled labor to allow for industry growth to take place. But if there was no political will to steer the economy, to steer the country in the direction that we want to be at, it will be difficult for us to reach the third largest economy, or the second largest economy, or even the first largest economy, or the largest economy, as we said. So now, is it also credibility and accountability and a thumbs up to be given to the government for treading its path towards the global hub dream that India looks at?
Yeah, see, you dream when you know that these dreams are achievable. Okay. So, and you achieve your dreams when there are facilitations. If you have a government which is decisive, which is progressive, which is looking into for the national interest, certainly you can achieve everything. I mean, like 5 trillion, which used to be a dream, now it's just a few years away.
It's a reality. By 25, 26, we are a 5 trillion economy.
Now we know it's a reality. I mean, it's not. We are not even thinking about it. It is just achievable. Okay, forget 5. I mean, national level. I mean, in states like Maharashtra, we are talking about 1 trillion economy now. I mean, states have started talking about trillions. Taking cue from Mr. Nangia. I mean, what kind of numbers we are talking? Did you know the apprenticeship numbers in Skill India today? What Honorable Prime Minister told about 48 lakh apprentices in a year. I mean, that's the population of New Zealand. What the numbers we are talking about? So yes, we are there, and the world has to see. India has started marching, and 100 years, of course, I mean, I have no doubt that we'll be number one.
Okay. All right. On that note, I thank all my panelists for joining me on this special telecast. This is India at 100 roadmap, the blueprint that the budget has envisaged. We are going to be a 5 trillion economy very soon, but the dream is now of a $30 trillion economy to be the #1 economy of the world. And how we are going to envisage this? Well, the roadmap is here. When will we be able to achieve it? That's the big question.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.